on that government.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and that was the Minister of Women's Affairs who not mentioned once this government's track record in women's affairs, and is it any wonder? Because they've gone backwards so fast, she couldn't even clock it as they've gone backwards on women's issues. But, Mr Speaker, how a government spends its money shows its priorities. Even in recessionary times, how a government spends its money shows its priorities. And that's why it is shameful that the largest cut has been to early childhood education. And that shows that that government does not care about this nation's children. It almost shows it as much as Nick Smith at question time gloating about taking away child-resistant caps so that young children may not be safe and can get into the laundry detergents in the wash house of the very families and the very houses that Pansy Wong just spoke about. What is it that this government has against children? That's what the public are starting to ask, because they have noticed that when the funding cuts came, where did they come to most? The very youngest, most vulnerable children in our community, those aged under 5. And it was early childhood education and the cuts there that showed what a low priority children are for this national government. And that's despite what all the research says. All the research tells us that it is those early years from 0 to 6 that really make the difference to life outcomes from there on in. That's where the investment should go. And even the Prime Minister's own science advisor, Sir Peter Gluckman, has told the Prime Minister this. That is where the investment should go. What's that Prime Minister done? He's allowed funding cuts to those years, the years 0 to 6. And that shows a lack of priority for children. And then the government set up a task force. After making funding cuts, the ministers decided to overhaul the whole early childhood education sector. And I can tell you, Mr Speaker, that I've just been to a conference this very morning here in Wellington where the sector is up in arms because they were not consulted at all about that review. They had no say over the membership of that review, and they're very concerned that there doesn't appear to be anyone on there with any experience working in early childhood education at all. But, Mr Speaker, it is chaired by one Michael Mintram. And I am very worried about what I read about Mr Mintram because he doesn't come from the sector, so we don't know a great deal about him. But he wrote a book in the year 2000 called Policy, Entrepreneurs and School Choice. And this is the premise of that book. His book was about, and these are quotes, direct quotes, understanding how policy ideas catch on even when their workability remains in doubt. Now, what does that tell us about where this task force is headed? We're understanding how policy ideas catch on even when their workability remains in doubt, and that's the type of thing that causes the sector grave concern over what this task force may well come out with, because it does represent yet another broken promise from the National Party. Because I don't know if members opposite have dug this out very recently, but this is the election policy on early childhood education from the National Party at the last election. And almost everything on there has been broken already, because the first thing they promised was they would enhance 20 hours ECE by keeping the existing subsidies and fee controls. And Tolly told us just yesterday that she has scrapped 2 of the subsidies that supported 20 hours free. She admitted that yesterday in Parliament. So that's broken. That's broken that promise. And then they went on to say that they were going to reduce staff ratios. They're going to reduce staff ratios. That's what they promised going to the last election. But what in fact is happening, because of Anne Tolley and John Key's funding cuts to early childhood education, staff are being sacked from that sector. And that means that children are in environments where they have fewer adults, fewer staff involved in the early childhood education. That reduces quality, that reduces staff ratios, yet another broken election promise on early childhood education by the National Party. So families are feeling very betrayed. They're feeling very, very betrayed because they believed National when they said they would leave early childhood education alone. They clearly have not done that. They have broken their promises to those families because they do not prioritise children. And I was shocked because another broken promise they made was I was in the room when when Every Child Counts, the organisation that asked for a cross-parliamentary group to support children, came and asked us about this all before the last election. They agreed then and now they don't. They broke